Welcome to VocaTales, where stories meet your English listening journey. Today's story is called A Journey Through Silence. It's a peaceful, emotional trip through one day in the mountains, a story about stillness, connection, and the quiet voices that live inside us. So, take a deep breath, sit comfortably, and let your mind travel with the sound of this story. It began on a Sunday morning. I woke up before sunrise, the sky still dark, the world still asleep. There was no traffic, no voices, only the gentle hum of the early wind. It was one of those rare mornings that felt like a new beginning. I had planned this trip for weeks. No city noise, no work emails, no messages, just me, the road, and the quiet. I packed a small bag, a notebook, a thermos of tea, and an old camera that had seen better days. When I stepped outside, the air smelled fresh, mixed with the scent of wet grass and pine trees. The world was wrapped in fog, soft and pale. It was silence. Not empty silence, but the kind that makes you listen to your own thoughts. The road was long and curved through small villages and rice fields. I rolled down the window. The sound of birds and the smell of morning dew filled the car. For the first time in a while, I wasn't rushing anywhere. I stopped at a tiny roadside cafe. It looked like time had forgotten it. Wooden chairs, handwritten signs, and a cat sleeping near the counter. The woman who owned the place greeted me with a smile. "Traveling alone?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Just trying to get away from the noise." She nodded knowingly. "The mountains will teach you something," she said. "But only if you listen." Her words followed me like a melody as I drove higher into the hills. By the time I reached the foot of the mountain, the fog was lifting. The path was narrow and surrounded by tall trees that whispered with every breeze. The sound of my footsteps mixed with the distant chirping of crickets. I walked for hours, past streams, fallen leaves, and small wooden signs pointing toward the silent peak. Every few minutes, I stopped just to breathe. No phone, no people. Just me and the sound of nature's rhythm. At one point, I met an old monk sitting by a small shrine. He wore a brown robe and was quietly feeding birds. I greeted him and he smiled gently. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To the top," I said. "I need to clear my head." He looked at me with kind eyes. "Silence is not empty," he said softly. "It's full of answers." I thanked him and continued walking. Halfway up the mountain, I found a small abandoned village. The houses were old, covered in moss. A wooden swing still hung from a tree, moving slightly in the wind. It felt both peaceful and sad, like time had paused here. I wandered through the narrow path between the houses. In one, I found a wooden box filled with letters, written decades ago. Most of them were unreadable, faded by rain and time. But one caught my eye. It said, "If you ever return, remember that silence is not loneliness. It's where you meet yourself again." I sat there for a long time, reading that line over and over. I realized how long it had been since I'd really listened, not to music or people, but to the quiet. The sky began to darken. I heard the first drops before I saw them. Within minutes, rain poured down, turning the path into a small stream. I ran toward a nearby hut and found shelter under its roof. Inside, there was only an old chair and a kettle left behind. I sat there listening to the rain hit the roof, rhythmic, steady, endless. It was strangely comforting. That's when I realized something. I hadn't spoken a single word all day, yet I didn't feel lonely. The silence wasn't empty. It was alive. As the rain softened, I brewed the tea from my thermos. Steam rose into the cold air, and I smiled. Sometimes peace doesn't come from doing nothing. It comes from doing one thing slowly, like listening to the rain. When I finally reached the top, the sky had cleared. The clouds opened to reveal a valley below, rivers, forests, and small villages glowing in the golden sunset. The silence there was different, bigger, deeper. I felt small, but also part of everything. I took out my notebook and wrote, "Silence doesn't mean the world is quiet. It means you finally stopped fighting with yourself." I stayed there until the first stars appeared. Driving back, the world looked different. The same road, the same lights, but I wasn't the same person. I noticed small things. The way the trees danced with the wind, the sparkle on the wet road, the reflection of stars in the river. When I got home, I didn't turn on the TV or music. I made tea again, sat by the window, and let the silence fill the room. For once, I didn't need to say anything. I just needed to be there, listening, and that was a journey through silence. A story about slowing down, finding stillness, and hearing the world and yourself more clearly. If you enjoyed today's long, peaceful story, don't forget to follow VocaTales for more relaxing English listening practice. Remember, learning English isn't just about words, it's about feeling them. Until next time, stay calm, stay kind, and keep listening.